Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind: Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion, published in 2012, is a profound exploration of the psychological underpinnings of morality and how these shape political and religious divisions. Haidt, a social psychologist, combines evolutionary psychology, cultural anthropology, and moral philosophy to argue that moral judgments are driven primarily by intuition rather than reason. His thesis challenges the Enlightenment ideal that humans are rational beings and presents a new framework for understanding why individuals and groups so passionately disagree on moral and political issues. I-morality begins with intuition, not reason. At the heart of Haidt's argument is what he calls the social intuitionist model. He contends that moral reasoning does not precede moral judgment, but rather follows it. This idea contrasts with the traditional view that humans deliberate about right and wrong through rational argument. Haidt draws on a range of psychological experiments, including his own, to demonstrate that people often arrive at moral conclusions intuitively and only later construct justifications for those intuitions. Haidt likens this process to a rider, reason, on an elephant, intuition. The rider may think he's in control, but the elephant ultimately leads. In this metaphor, moral reasoning is typically post hoc rationalization, not the origin of judgment. We feel disgust, anger, or admiration, and only afterward do we create explanations to justify those feelings. This insight helps explain why people are often impervious to counter-arguments in political debates. Since our judgments stem from intuitive reactions shaped by culture, personality, and evolutionary heritage, appealing to logic alone is unlikely to change deeply held beliefs. 2. The moral foundations theory. One of the most influential aspects of the righteous mind is Haidt's moral foundations theory, MFT, which posits that there are at least 6 innate moral foundations that underlie our ethical thinking. 1. Care harm, sensitivity to suffering and the desire to protect others. 2. Fairness, cheating, concern for justice, reciprocity, and equality. 3. Loyalty, betrayal, allegiance to one's group, family, or nation. 4. Authority, subversion, respect for tradition and legitimate authority. 5. Sanctity/degradation, concerns about purity, cleanliness, and sacredness. 6. Liberty, oppression, focus on individual freedom and resistance to domination. Haidt argues that liberals in Western societies tend to prioritize care and fairness, while conservatives draw on a broader array of these foundations, particularly loyalty, authority, and sanctity. This difference explains why liberals and conservatives often talk past each other. They emphasize different moral concerns and use different moral languages. For example, a liberal may focus on the harm caused by poverty or discrimination, while a conservative might be more concerned about the degradation of societal norms or the erosion of traditional institutions. Both are speaking from genuine moral perspectives, but they are grounded in different psychological frameworks. 3. Groupishness and tribal morality. Another key theme in Haidt's book is the notion that humans are groupish animals. While evolution has equipped us with selfish impulses for individual survival, it has also endowed us with capacities for cooperation and tribalism that go beyond individual self-interest. Drawing from evolutionary biology and anthropology, Haidt explains how group selection played a vital role in human development. Tribes that could cooperate, enforce norms, and foster loyalty were more likely to survive and outcompete rival groups. As a result, we have evolved to value social cohesion, even at the expense of outsiders. This tribal mindset underlies much of our political and religious behavior. People tend to form identities around groups, and these group identities shape their perceptions, beliefs, and behaviors. This dynamic often leads to polarization, especially in pluralistic societies where multiple moral matrices coexist. Religion, according to Haidt, functions as a powerful binding force that sacralizes certain values and promotes in-group solidarity. But this same mechanism also contributes to conflict between groups when sacred values are incompatible. The conservative advantage. One of the more controversial arguments Haidt makes is that conservatives tend to have a more balanced moral foundation profile, meaning they draw from a wider range of the 6 moral foundations than liberals typically do. While liberals emphasize individual-focused concerns, care and fairness, Conservatives often incorporate group-oriented concerns, loyalty, authority, sanctity. Haidt does not claim that conservatives are more moral, but rather that their moral worldview is broader, allowing them to resonate with a larger portion of the population. He suggests that this might explain why conservative messages often have broader appeal in electoral politics, particularly among those who value tradition, religion, and national identity. Furthermore, he criticizes liberal thinkers and activists for often dismissing conservative moral concerns as irrational or regressive. Instead, he calls for moral humility, an acknowledgement that all moral systems are grounded in evolved intuitions and deserve empathetic understanding. Civil discourse and the path to understanding. The final chapters of The Righteous Mind focus on how we might bridge political divides and foster more constructive dialogue. Haidt suggests that moral disagreements will always exist because people prioritize different values and are influenced by varying cultural and psychological factors. However, he also believes that understanding the moral psychology of others can lead to greater empathy and tolerance. Instead of demonizing opponents or assuming bad faith, we should seek to understand their moral foundations and the social context that shapes their views. He encourages engagement across ideological lines, not just to persuade, but to listen and build trust. Democracy, Haidt argues, depends on our ability to coexist with those who see the world differently, and this requires a shift from moral certainty to moral curiosity. Implications for modern society. The Righteous Mind has profound implications for a range of issues beyond politics and religion. In education, it suggests that moral development cannot rely solely on rational instruction, but must also address emotional and social dimensions. In the media, it points to the dangers of echo chambers that reinforce tribal divisions and dehumanize opponents. In governance, Haidt's work implies that successful pluralistic societies must respect diverse moral perspectives and seek institutions that balance conflicting values. It also suggests that ideological uniformity can be dangerous, as it narrows moral discourse and stifles innovation. Importantly, Haidt does not argue for moral relativism. He acknowledges that some moralities can be more destructive than others, but he insists that we cannot begin to make such judgments without first understanding how moralities work and why good people disagree. Conclusion. Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind offers a compelling, empirically grounded, and refreshingly nonpartisan analysis of why moral and political disagreements run so deep. By showing that our judgments are rooted in evolved intuitions and shaped by social environments, Haidt challenges the notion that reason alone can bridge ideological divides. His work calls for humility, empathy, and a deeper understanding of the moral foundations that drive human behavior. Whether one leans left or right, The Righteous Mind provides tools for more civil discourse and greater appreciation of moral diversity. In an age of polarization and outrage, Haidt's message is both urgent and hopeful. If we understand each other better, we might just find common ground.